Let's get into setting up Google Tag Manager and connecting it to your website. I will show you the basic setup that you need to track conversions on your website and successfully send them to Google Analytics. This setup is absolutely essential to optimize your website and to get more conversions, aka more leads and more sales. So feel free to simply follow along with me. So the first thing that I want to show you is what we will track. So I am now on this sample page over here. This is basically the main page. People have a button, I'm interested in your offer. So when I click this, I will be redirected to this URL over here. So fabian-buengers.com/interested. Now I can fill in a form. Let's quickly do that to show you the process. I need to put this in place over here. Now I click on send, and then I will be redirected to the page fabian-buengers.com/thank you. So this process we want to see in Google Analytics. So we want to see, okay, how many people came to the main page, how many people clicked on the button, hey, I'm interested, and then we're redirected to the form page. And we also want to see how many people successfully submitted the form and were redirected to the thank you page. And to be able to track this, we will need Google Tag Manager. So let's switch to Google Tag Manager. What you need to do is you need to open up this URL over here. So tagmanager.google.com. When you are redirected to this page, it might be that you don't have an account yet. Then you need to either log in with your Google profile or you need to create an account for your Google profile. Now, once you've done that, you can open up this URL, and then what we will do together now is create a Google Tag Manager account. For that, we click on Create Account over here. Now we have to fill in a couple of information. Just as a basic explanation, you have the account, which is like the umbrella, and within this account, you have different containers. So for example, an account could be for a business, it could be for a brand, it could be for a person, but then you could have different websites within your account. So you could have an account for example company ABC, and this example company has different websites, and those different websites are linked then to different containers. So account is the umbrella, and under the umbrella there are different containers corresponding to different websites. So in my case, let me put my personal name, so Fabian Buengers, and I will also put new, just for me to identify that this is the testing account. Then I will select my corresponding country. Pay attention that you select the same country that you also selected for setting up your Google Analytics account. If you haven't set up your Google Analytics account, I will link a video how to do that below this video, so you can check it out. Now we will set up the container. Container is a little bit like a suitcase. So in the suitcase, you put different items if you want to go to travel, for example. So you put, I don't know, your laptop, your mobile phone, whatever. And the same concept applies for the container. In the container, you have different things like variables, like tags, triggers, and what all those different things mean, I will explain you later on in this video. So for now, let's give this container a name. Google already suggests you can put the URL of your website. So what I will do is I will just copy and paste my testing URL. I will put this in here. The target platform in our case will be web because we will connect a website. So we will select web over here. Let's move my face out of the way. And then what we do is we click on Create over here. Now we have the Google Tag Manager Terms of Service Agreement. You have to read, obviously, through all of that. And once you've successfully done that, you click I also accept data processing terms by GDPR, and then you click on the top right on Yes. So now that this is done, we will be redirected to the Tag Manager overview and the Tag Manager dashboard. What you see over here is the instruction on how to install Tag Manager on your website. As we have a WordPress website, we can skip this part and directly connect Tag Manager to your WordPress website, and I will show you in a second how we can do that. In case you do not have a WordPress website, if you run your website on Wix, on Squarespace, whatever, they almost always have tools or settings or options where you can directly integrate Tag Manager with their platform. If they do not have this specific tool or setting, what you can do is you can copy and paste the header script over here and put it in the header section of your website. What you also have to do is you have to copy and paste the body tag over here and put this in the body section of your website. You can also then enter your URL, click on test to see if the tags were successfully pushed to your website. In our case, what we will do is we will close this window over here, and then we navigate back to our WordPress website and we go to the back end. Then we navigate to the SiteKit. If you do not have the SiteKit installed yet or not set up Google Analytics already, then again, I will link the video down in the description so you can check it out. So we navigate to the SiteKit over here, and then we click on the left-hand side on settings. And then we have all those different connected services over here. But what we will do is we will click on connect more services. And then on the right-hand side, we have the tag manager. So if we click on set up tag manager, what we can then do is we can select the account that we just created. So remember, we created the account over here with this corresponding URL. So what we can do is we can select the account over here. Fabian Buengers new, this is the one that I created. And then we also have to select the corresponding container, which is automatically applied over here right now. You can also click on the arrow over here and then select the corresponding container. And after that, we click on complete setup. What Google now does is it connects your website to Google Tag Manager. So it says, congrats on completing the setup for Tag Manager. So you now successfully linked Google Tag Manager to your WordPress website. You can now click on OK, got it. And then you can navigate back to settings and see that now Tag Manager over here is connected with this green check mark over here. So now let's navigate back to Tag Manager over here. As you see over here, this is the dashboard. It might look overwhelming, but don't worry about it. I will tell you step by step how you can find all the different things in here and do a basic setup for your website to track the whole kind of journey of the website visitor. Just quickly, on the left-hand side, we have the overview, we have tags, we have triggers, we have variables, folders, and templates. We will do a basic setup now. So we will focus on tags, triggers, and variables. What we will also focus on is preview mode over here, and how you can integrate or see everything that we do in Tag Manager also in Google Analytics, and make sure that what we will set up now is also pushed into Google Analytics. So let's first navigate to tags over here. In general, tags track things on your website. There are different tags for different events and different happenings on your website. And those tags send information to different third parties. So for example, there could be a tag which is the so-called Google tag. And this specific Google tag sends information to specific Google services. An example could be Google Analytics, an example could be Google AdSense, an example could also be Google Ads. So I would say we jump right into it and we set up our first tag. So what we do is we click on New over here, and what we will do is we will set up a Google tag. So it measures data on the website and then sends it to a corresponding Google provided service. So let's give this a name first. We can put G tag. We click on tag configuration over here. And then what you see over here, the Google tag. This is the one that we select. And now we have to find the tag ID and we have to put it into the field over here. And the way we can find this tag ID is if we navigate back to our WordPress website and to the dashboard of it. So we navigate back to our WordPress website, and then in the Analytics tab over here of the Google SiteKit, we click on this arrow over here, and then we have different information over here, property, measurement ID, and we also have the Google Tag ID. What we will do is we will copy that, then we can paste that into the Google Tag Manager field. If you do not have a WordPress website, there's another way how you can find your tag ID. What you can do is you can open up analytics.google.com, and I selected my URL or my account over here. You can navigate to the admin section, which is over here on the bottom left. You can click on admin. Then you can go to data streams. We will have our data stream. You can click on it. You then have to click on configure tag settings. And once you've done that, you see the Google tag. Click on the Google tag, and then you will also see your Google Tag ID, which is this one over here. So GT and then the following. What I would also do is I would double check that this tag ID over here also matches the one that you have in your WordPress dashboard in the SiteKit. So as we see, GT ends with 43. If I compare that to the one that is in Google Analytics, then this is correct. Okay, let's continue in the Google Tag Manager over here. So once we insert the Google Tag ID, as you see over here, the trigger is automatically assigned. The firing trigger is initialization on all pages. So whenever a person goes to your website and initializes a session, then this Google tag will be fired. So we will click on Save on the top right over here. And now you successfully created your first tag with your corresponding first trigger. So we successfully set up the Google tag. And what we will now do is we will set up another tag and another trigger. So we will start with the trigger first. So let's click on trigger and then we click on new. And we now want to measure when people go to the website and then click on the button, hey, I'm interested, and are redirected to the form page that I showed you. Let me just quickly show you again. So if I go onto this link over here and I click on interested, or I enter interested, we want to measure all people that are landing on this specific page. And for this, we will now create the trigger. So let's head back to the tag manager. We can give this trigger a name. So let's put page minus view underscore, and then we put URL minus contains minus interested. We now click in the middle of the trigger configuration. We will look for page view, but we now do not want to have all the page views, but a specific page URL view. So we click on some page views over here. We will have this little menu over here. If we click on the arrow, we can, for example, use page URL, and then we select contains. We have different things that you can select in here, as you see, but let's focus on contains, and then we put interested. So if we navigate back to the website, we have this interested in the page URL, and this is basically what we will also set up in here. So page URL contains the phrase interested. We now click on save over here. Now that the trigger is configured, we will attach it to a tag. For that, we navigate back to tags over here, and we will now create a tag that sends the information. If a person landed on the interested page, it sends it back to Google Analytics. So let's click on new over here. Let's click on the tag configuration. And in this specific case, we will select Google Analytics because we want to send information to Google Analytics. So let's click on Google Analytics. We will select Google Analytics GA4 event. Let's click on this. And now we have a couple of information that we need to fill. We have the measurement ID and we have the event name. So how can we find the measurement ID? Well, it's quite simple. If we navigate back to our WordPress dashboard, we navigate back to the settings of the site kit, and then we have the different information in here. And as you see, we also have the measurement ID. So let's grab the measurement ID. Let's copy it. Let's go back to the tag manager and let's paste this in here. If you don't have WordPress and if you still need to find the measurement ID, what you can do is you can go back to Analytics, the same kind of menu that we selected before. You can basically go to the admin section over here, navigate to data streams. You click on your data stream, and then on the top right, you see measurement ID. And you can basically take that, copy and paste it into the tag manager menu over here. Now let's also give this event a name. And this event name is what will finally show up in your Google Analytics. So make it specific that when you read it, you immediately know what is meant by this event. So in our case, we will name it showed minus interest, because people who landed on the page and clicked on the button and were redirected to the interested page, they showed interest. Perfect. What we now also need to do is we will need to give this tag a name. So let's go for something specific. Let's go for GA4 minus event. And then we put showed minus interest. And we can also, this is optional, but I like to also put page view minus thank minus you. Okay, this is very specific because then I know, okay, what this specific tag is for. The last thing that we have to do is we need to assign the trigger that we created before. So let's click on trigger and we will now see the trigger that we created over here. So page view URL contains minus interested. So let's select this one. Now we have all the data ready and we click on save. Now we created our second tag. We want to create another tag to measure the event when people successfully submitted the form and were redirected to the thank you page of the website. So let's start by creating the trigger first. Let's go to triggers over here. We click on new again. What we will do is We then configure the trigger over here. We go to page view, some page views, page URL contains thank minus you. We will also give this a name. So page minus view underscore contains minus thank minus you. Perfect. Let's click on save over here. We now successfully created our next trigger. We will now navigate to tags because we want to send the information now that a person has landed on the thank you page back to Google Analytics 4. So we click on new over here, tag configuration, Google Analytics 4 event, measurement ID, again, back to SiteKit, copy, back to Tag Manager, paste, event name, lead minus generated. Because now ultimately, if the person submitted all the information like name, phone number, email, etc., then a lead was generated. And this is what we want to see as an event in Google Analytics. So we put this in place. We click on trigger. We select our trigger. Page view contains thank you. We select it. We give this tag a name. Again, GA4 minus event underscore lead minus generated, and we can also put page view minus thank minus you. We click on save, and now we basically covered the entire journey of the person. The person landed on the website, we can track that. The person landed on the interested page, we can track that. And the person landed on the thank you page after successfully submitting the form, we can also track that. So now to ensure that all that we set up is set up correctly, we have the preview mode over here. So let's click on preview, and then we will be connected to the Tag Manager Assistant, and make sure that all your ad blockers or anything similar to that is deactivated. Otherwise, this will not work. So let's put in the page URL, and then let's click on connect. And let's see if this works now. So Tag Manager Assistant is now connecting to the page. So this connection is successful over here. So if I now switch back to the field over here, it also says connected. We will click through the process now once more. So I will click on I'm interested in your offer. I will now put in again the sample data, and then I put some information in here, click on send, and now I'm redirected to the thank you page over here. Now I will click on finish, and I will click on continue over here. So this is the Tag Assistant overview. And as you see in this field over here, the tags fired successfully. So we have the Google tag that we set up. This was successfully fired 3 times, as you see. So it fired on each single page that we were redirected to. The GA4 event showed interested was also successfully fired 1 time. And the GA4 event lead generated page view thank minus you was also fired 1 time correctly. If I click on the different tags over here, I will see additional information. We can do this for basically every event. So we see the type, we see the event name, showed interest, and we also see the corresponding measurement ID. What you can also see on the left-hand side over here, it's basically the journey that the visitor took. As you see over here, it's marked with different numbers. So this is the second step. We can directly see, okay, there was an API call, consent initialization. Then in step number 4, a container was loaded. If we go to step 11 over here, a link click was done. And we know that this link click was on the button, hey, I'm interested. And we see all the different steps that the visitor took on the website. For example, you also have some Google standard events over here. So for example, it tracks that the form was started. It tracks that the form was submitted. What we can also see in the middle is that we have this tab over here, variables. And when it comes to variables, let me try to explain it to you in a simple way. So you could, for example, say, hey, I measured the clicks on a website. But what you could also say is, hey, I measured specific clicks on a website. And for those specific clicks, variables are used. If we use variables, we can say, hey, I saw this person clicked on a certain button on the page that says click here. It could also mean that a person clicked on a specific element on your website that says image ABC. So a variable could basically have different values. So a click on a website is not always the same click, right? It could be the click on a button. It could be the click on an image. It could be the click on a certain element on your page. And all of those different events, those are captured with variables. So if we navigate back to the Google Tag Manager dashboard, We also have this variable section over here. So let me just quickly open that up for you. And we have some built-in variables, so event, page host name, page path, page URL, and referrer. But what we can also do is we can define variables ourselves. So let's pick an example. Let's say we want to measure if a person clicks on the button on this page over here, I'm interested in your offer. So in order to track that, what we need to do is we click in the variable section on configure over here. And as you see, some of the check marks are already in place. But what we need to do is we need to navigate to clicks over here. And then let's put the check marks for all of those different click events on the page. As you see over here, you also have variables for arrows, you have them for forms, for history, even for video. So let's say you have a video on your page and you want to see how much % a person views of that video. You can also capture that with the variables by enabling those video options over here. So let's keep the ones that are selected and let's close this down. And as you see, we now have the different variables that we just activated in here as well. So click class, click element, click ID, and we also have click text. So let's again say we want to measure the event that a person clicks on the button on the website. What we need to do then is we click on triggers and we need to define a new trigger. So let's click on new and now on the trigger configuration. And now we use the click option over here. So we click on just clicks and we don't want to measure all the clicks, but just some clicks. So let's click on some clicks. Then we select what we just discussed, the click text over here. And then we select contains. We can keep that in place. We could also, for example, use equals over here, but let's stick to contains. And then we go back to check what kind of text is on the button. So I'm interested in your offer. Go back to Tag Manager. We could, for example, take interested now because the text interested is in this specific button. However, you have to be careful because if you have other buttons on the page that also contain the interested word, then this will lead to double measurement, which is not ideal. Let's go back to the Tag Manager. And so we have this in place. We can also give this a name. So for example, we could say, so click minus text and then contains, and then we put interested. We could click on save. And now we configure the trigger that fires if people click on the button. We could then go ahead and create a corresponding tag. Basically the same process that we did before. So I'm not going to go into the process again, but basically you would create a new tag and then assign the trigger that we just created to that tag. This will allow you to measure all the events if people clicked on the button. In general, I would always recommend you to use page view events instead of button clicks, just because they are more precise. It could happen that a person clicks on a button, but then something unexpected happens and the person is not redirected to the page, which would then lead to false information because the person was not ultimately redirected to the page. So as a summary, we created 3 tags now and 3 corresponding triggers. We also checked out the preview mode and we saw in the preview mode that our tags are firing correctly. And now we obviously need to publish those information. So what we can do is we can click on submit over here to put all the stuff that we created live. So let's click on submit over here and we need to put a version name. So let's put initial setup. You could also, for example, add a description, which will be useful if you have like multiple persons acting in the account, because then you can track and see, okay, which person published which version or which tags or which triggers. We click on publish over here and now all the things that we created are published and are live. You see a summary over here. So in total, 3 tags were configured, 3 triggers, and 11 different variables were added. And now the last thing that we have to do is we need to test and see whether all the information of the tags that we configured are also successfully sent to Google Analytics. So in order to do that, let's navigate back to our workspace over here. And then we switch to our Google Analytics account and we navigate to admin over here. Let's click on this again. And we will search for debug view and you will see that in data display and then you have the debug view. So let's click it. This will basically log all the events that are happening within Google Analytics. So if we worked correctly, we should see all the events of the website in this debugging view. So let's head back to the Tag Manager over here. We will click on Preview again. And in order for that to work properly, we need to log out of WordPress. So let's quickly do that. Once this is done, we navigate back to the Tag Manager over here. We click on Preview and we will enter our URL again and we click on Connect. So now the Tag Manager assistant is connecting to our page again. And now we are successfully connected to our page. So let's quickly switch back to the Google Analytics account to see if we are also connected in the debugging view. So I will click on Google Analytics over here. And as you see, now the different events are already tracked within the debugging view. So we see first visit, page view, session start, and scroll. So let's go back to the website and then let's go through the process. So I click on I'm interested in your offer. I will put in the dummy data again and let's click on send over here so that we are redirected to the thank you page. We can minimize this window over here. And as you see in the debugging view of Google Analytics, all the different events are now successfully tracked in this session. You see the user engagement, the form start, and we also have the events that we set up previously. So we set up the Google tag showed interest, which is this one over here. We can click on it and see different information. But what we also see is the lead generated. So this event was also tracked successfully in the debugging view of Google Analytics. So this means that everything that we set up is properly set up in Google Tag Manager, but is also successfully sent to your Google Analytics 4 account. The last thing that you basically have to do is, if you go to events over here, then you have to wait around 24 to 48 hours, and you will see after this time period the different events that we set up. So for example, the generated lead event, you will see it in this list over here. Once you have it in this list, then you can mark it as key event, which will also allow you to see it in the conversion or the key events over here. So if we navigate to key events and you marked the event as key event, then this will also show up in the key events over here. So let me just quickly do that. If I go to events and I wanted to mark the first visit as a key event because I want to measure all the first visits in particular, then I mark this as key event. I will navigate back to key events. And then this event would be listed in the key events over here. So this will obviously allow you to specifically track the whole kind of journey that a visitor takes when going through your website. And you can see, okay, how many people visited the page, how many people clicked on, hey, I'm interested, and were redirected to the form page. You can also see how many people then successfully submitted the form and were redirected to the thank you page. And based on those gathered data, you can evaluate how many website visitors convert ultimately into leads. So congrats, you did it. We set up the basics of Google Tag Manager. We connected everything to your WordPress website or your website in general, and we also successfully connected everything to Google Analytics so that all the information from Google Tag Manager are pushed and sent into your Google Analytics account. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have questions, just leave them in the comments below. I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.